Welcome to Showing Our Sass, the podcast. I am your host, Martyrdom, and this season I am thrilled to introduce my good friend Esi and my lead author Snodgrass, as we tackle topics that tend to make people clutch their pearls, especially when it comes to health and wellness. This season, we are going to tackle all kinds of topics related to taking control of our health, and we promise not to pull our punches, because we are living through a time where we just don't have time to play about our health. Esi is one of those people who are driven to fight for what's right, whether it's raising awareness for her community of persons living with type 1 diabetes or pushing for fair and equitable treatment of union workers. Esi uses her body and her voice to help others. Esi also has a habit of trying on a lot of other people's clothes and dancing in front of cameras. You might call her a model, but she would say she just has fun doing things she loves. So without further ado, I present to you Showing Our Sass, Season 1. Let's get into it. I'm gonna tell you something. One of the ways I know I'm not ready to have a child, when I get around a child that hasn't been trained well and they do the mama, 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 I want to snatch them.
Yes.
I don't have the patience for that.
Yes.
I said it one time, if you couldn't get that,
yeah.
I know I'm not ready for, or people say, no, Marta, no, you'd be ready. It's just that your child would know you. I'm like,
no,
y'all don't understand. I know myself well enough to know if I'm dealing with a knucklehead, I'm going to need prayer. I mean, we all need prayer, but I'm going to need prayer because there's certain things I just don't have the tolerances for. And the older I get, the less likely I'm going to ever have the tolerances for that either. I'm not saying we'll never have kids. I think it would be a blessing if the Lord decided to, do that with us. But as I look at it, I'm like, I'm 40 next month.
Mm-hmm. Happy birthday.
Thank you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. But I know it's coming. I know the tidal wave is coming. Y'all sure your time's running out. Yeah, that's right. Don't you want somebody who can take care of you when you old?
That is a video in itself that I would love to delve into is child freedom. We can talk about it. Or that is a whole other 4-hour video right there.
Because something's wrong. You cannot be happily married and not pop out at least a child. It's just something in the culture. People just think you cannot be happily married. Terrence and I have been married how long now? 8 years? We good?
I mean, but speaking of my lovely husband. Hey, Joseph.
Yay!
I'm recording something, sweetheart. So no, it's fine. This is why I'm sitting here. But that's the thing though, is the conversation of family planning, of putting things in an order. And I believe order to be something to where you are fully and completely prepared to do said thing. And I think that all ties into our original topic of if you are planning on having children, here's the healthiest way, like you said, whole health. This is the healthiest way to do it for both partners. This is the healthiest time, healthiest financially, all those things should be put into place so your child can have the best benefit as they possibly can. And so when you're sliding into a situation, you're not ready for it. The kid is going to be the one that pays the price for that.
Facts. That's part of, and you gave me the perfect segue. And this is how we can tie it off if we feel like we're ready. Because you and I can go for hours and hours. But words and phrasing matter, and that's what I wanted to talk about with the Planned Parenthood part. Because like it, don't like it, it is a really huge wealth of information pulled into one place. But people immediately go to, that's a place where people can go and kill babies. That's immediately the way that it's talked to people about it. But Planned Parenthood might be a bit of a misnomer.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing is providing a resource so that you can better understand your reproductive health.
Yes. Most definitely.
It's a reproductive health center.
Yes, it is.
That's what it is. It's not we're going to teach you how to have sex. We're going to teach you how to get rid of a baby. It's not that.
Yeah.
And
they do so much. When I was in college, the girls went there because at the time, I don't know if they still do that. I think they provided free birth control.
Yep.
They provided, STI checks, and I think they do breast health and all types of
they do mammograms.
All that stuff. And so to limit to one thing, I think is ridiculous. Even hospitals, if I believe if a woman's health is in danger, they perform in hospitals abortions just the same. And so we don't look at hospitals as being the places where that's the only place where abortions are performed. So I'm not going to walk into a hospital. It's serving so many other things.
why is it that we had to have a separate entity pulled out of the
Yeah.
normal healthcare community to target on this? Is because no one was embracing this information exchange in other places. And so an entity was created so that there could be a place to pool these resources. Reproductive health is a part of health.
It is. It's your body.
It's your body. And so I'm like, wow. When you think about it in those terms, and that's why I had to I divorced myself from talking about conservative versus liberal. This isn't conservative and this isn't liberal. This is human. This is human reproductive health.
Yes. Which should be
we need to take it.
Yes.
We don't take it as seriously as we should. We do not respect the subject matter in the way that we should. We globally, I'm saying, we do not give it the attention and the time that we really should. We instead fall into these squibbles and skirmishes and whatnot because a certain faith or a certain sect or somebody takes exception with one part of it and it makes them uncomfortable. And I'm looking forward to the day when, and I believe it can happen, when we finally grow up.
Yeah.
I just want us to grow up. The word is penis, not wiener. The word is vagina, not eraser. I mean, yes, they used to call a vagina an eraser.
But you know what?
The old school erasers that were pink, and it's not even the right shape. It's not even the right shape. No vagina is shaped like that.
I have never heard of it.
No, here's the analogy. In school, we used to have the pencil sharpeners, so they were like, you can put your the pencil was the penis and the eraser was the vagina in the analogy of all this stuff, because we are not comfortable calling things by the proper names. It's what I mean, tell the truth, shame the devil. That's what I am about it. I am not making this stuff up. These are things that we were raised.
Never heard of that. But it's funny though, one of our icebreakers when we do our clinics was giving lists of all the names for vagina or vulva, whatever it is, and all the names for penis and all this. I learned so much, and it's a cultural thing. People have a million names, but it's because people don't want to be out in public and I guess say, hey, I mean I don't know, because even after we did our names for things, we talked about why things were not given the proper name. Like, why can't we just call it that? And so we were like, okay, well, maybe it's because some people call, defecation, they say poop. Or people say urination, they say pee. It's like we have nicknames for every bodily function as opposed to just calling it what it is. And so there's a certain level of overall discomfort when it comes to bodily functions and natural bodily happenings. And so we had to break that down before we even got to talking about sex, because we were going to use the proper terminology for each body part. And there were adults that were squirming in their skin, and they had dozens of children, and they were still sitting there like, oh my God, we're actually going to talk about this. So it was unusual to me seeing people so uncomfortable, because even though I was raised in a very comfortable environment, I assumed that all parents, even at the age of 24, I thought that most parents or most adults would be able to have these kind of conversations. I'm like, it would be a room full of women and they were still squirming. It'd be a mixture of men and women and they were still squirming. It's like, y'all got kids. What
is the benefit of the mystification? What is the benefit of the mystification? That's the question I want to put to the community.
But that goes to my thing about the post about poop. I didn't know that people felt so embarrassed about a malfunctioning commode. I mean, it was making people lose their collective minds. And I was like, I'm missing something in the human psyche that I feel is very important, but I don't know what I'm missing to where it's this degree of cringe that people are like, oh my God, I don't get it. But
Facebook is a great test bed for sociological exploration in that way.
But I respect that people feel that way, but why? I can't get deep enough to make sense of it, because it's like, it's literally, there are people on earth that aren't having sex. There's nobody on earth that's not pooping. So even within the context of comparing those things, I don't understand. But even still, people have a certain level of discomfort with natural things. And once we get to figuring out why that is, I think the conversations about sex, about reproduction, about all our bodies in general, we'll be able to have a better conversation.
Well, we know why. It's taught. My question is, why do we teach our children this?
But I'm saying,
Is it a form of protection? Is it just because that's what's always been done?
It's inherent embarrassment, but I don't understand what the embarrassment is about, and especially if you're non-religious. Because I know people that are within religion, that's a whole other conversation. But if you're a non-religious person, I don't know. I know people that are non-religious that were not raised in the church or any religion, and they're still very sexually
They
discreet.
still get squeamish.
They get squeamish still. So I don't know. I don't know.
Children.
And that's the thing, is that it's such a slippery slope, because I'm in a couple of child-free groups that are most of them are cringy, but a lot of them sometimes put these labels of expectation and a checklist of what a person should have under control before they have children. And it kind of turns into like a weird eugenics kind of list. And it's just like, I can't even go there, because it's not so much that I'm saying that a person even has to be of perfect health. I mean, all these kind of things. I'm not saying any of those things, but just within your ability in life, being at a place where you can give your child all that you're capable of achieving. If you can,
Some thought should go into that process. But you gave a great example. Could you share that example again the other day you did about how some people, they're so focused on getting the baby that they don't think about how they want the baby.
Let me tell you. But going back, I'll give this example because
that's okay. I'll remind you.
Yeah, no, I remember you. I definitely remember it because I've said it so often. But our brains are so similar with this. Is that if I joke with my coworkers about this all the time, and I always say, when we first got married, I was like, y'all, if I end up pregnant, I'm putting in my 2 weeks immediately. And they're like, why do you say that? I was like, because I need to prepare for my entire universe, like the next 25 years. I need to be ready for it. And they're like, why do you feel that way? And I was like, it's just how I feel. So I look at it like this. Before a woman gets pregnant, in my mind, if I could just build a situation that's like the perfect situation, it would be like 6 months to a year before she got pregnant. Why do you ask? Because from how I see it, what it takes to carry a child and rear a toddler and take care of a teenager, it takes stamina. And so it should be about 6 months to a year where you're training as if it's going to be a marathon. And so if you can run without being fully exhausted, 3 to 5 miles, just do a nice jog. If you stop, it's like, whoo, okay, if you can do that, I might feel as if you're ready to get pregnant. Why? Because once a woman is pregnant, for the first 3 months, minimally, because some women are sick the entire 9 months. For the first 3 months, you're exhausted, you're nauseated, you're vomiting, and you're working a full-time job for the most part. So if you don't have the stamina, the energy, the health going into this, now having a 3-month-long stomach flu sounds like that's enough for a person to collapse and never have another child, right? So at that point, first 3 months, you haven't even really gained all the weight that you're going to gain. You're throwing up everything you eat for the first 3 months. So you're going to need that stamina that you built for the 6 months to a year, that you're ready, prepared to go into this thing, to be ready mentally, so you're not crying as your body is turning into the vessel that it is. So the first 3 months you're dealing with. The next 3 months, you're gaining weight and you're getting kind of tired and you're sleepy and you're exhausted. And so again, that stamina and health and whatever it takes for you to take these vitamins and all this stuff, you've already been prepared for a year to know that.
Yeah, muscle health, joint health, all that stuff.
Because your lower back is going to be acting a donkey, your feet are going to swell, and that's just 6 months into it. When we're talking about the last 3 months, you've got a whole human being floating around your insides that are going to make you so sleepy that you're not going to know what to do with yourself. And you're still usually working a full 8 hours a day. And on top of that, if you're married, you're dealing with the husband. If you're not married, you have to deal with yourself. You have to still live a life.
A husband who you're going through a life course change with too, because all of a sudden they are not the center of your world. If that's how your relationship was set up, they're realizing they are losing your full attention because your first priority is going to be this baby, and they're going to have to take a second seat. And if you are not a couple that is comfortable going to counseling for that, they are also trying to medicate themselves in some kind of way to deal with that emotional loss.
They change. And so the stamina and the focus and the conversation is saying, hey, I'm going to have to be dealing with this with my body and that with my time and that with my energy. That is going into the 6 months to a year before you even try to conceive a child. So now you're at the 9 months. Now you're sitting there, you're like, hey, I'm going to have a baby at any given time. They tend to suggest that women go into a nest. Women are always nesting, but like a relaxation time before giving birth, if you have that ability, so you can take off work and just sleep and just rest, because you're not going to sleep again until years down the line, right?
That's the bed rest.
That's it. And so now you're going into childbirth, and of course, for the I can't stress this enough. I'm not gonna begin to try to have the whole battle between having natural, no pain, whatever childbirth and childbirth with
epidural
medication.
and all that.
Epidural. I'm not having that. But in a perfect universe, let's even say that a woman is having, let's say natural childbirth. She's having it vaginally with no medicine. If you're going to do that, you might be in labor for a very long time. My mother had all of us naturally. She didn't take any medicine. Or no pain medicine. She took Pitocin, which sounds horrific, which increases the contractions.
Yeah.
But she didn't take an epidural. Why do you ask? Because she says she hates shots. Okay, fine. So she's giving birth to us. But I was like 22 hours or something like that she had to go, something crazy like that to push me out. So I came out though. But my point is that if you aren't ready and prepared for the 6 months to a year and your stamina and your training is if you're doing a marathon and you're going through this whole 9 months of exhaustion, and now you have to go through this some hours of birthing a child, you're going into this thing so unprepared. So now, boom, baby comes out, right? At that point, you're not going to sleep. Why? Because you have a baby right there. So now you have to nurse. And as we all know,
and that's if your milk comes in.
If your milk comes in, and if you're choosing to nurse, but if your milk comes in, you have to be well rested. You have to be well hydrated. You have to be healthy because what's in you is coming out of your milk. And so you have to have whatever skills that you were picking up on 6 months to a year before you even got pregnant. Now you have to use the health that you maintained, hopefully throughout your pregnancy, to now give this child the energy that it needs in the form of milk and the form of attention. So let's say the baby's not colicky, it ain't got no major health issues, it's a completely healthy baby. Even still, especially when you're nursing, you're going to be nursing that baby every 2 hours. So the sleep that you get is going to be whack, okay?
Yep.
You're going to be sleeping in a weird combination. The baby's going to be hanging off you. You're not going to be able to sleep completely starfishing for 10 hours like you used to, okay? I'm not knocking it. It's just the fact of the matter, okay?
I'm laughing because the starfish image. Yeah, I got it immediately.
You sleep butt naked like a starfish.
Yes.
And so either your husband's getting up every couple of hours to feed the baby with a bottle, or whether you pumped or not, or you're getting up yourself, hearing that little man, you're up. You're like, what's going on? I gotta help my baby. You don't sleep through the crying of a baby. You are up. Okay. Yeah. Again, the stamina that you needed from 6 months to a year before conception is the same stamina you need for 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks after giving birth, that you need to have sleepless nights. And now you're going back to 8 hours a day of work. Okay. And so that same health that you were using and doing and grooving with, now your baby's grown up to a year, 2 years. You want to have an active life. You want your baby to be walking and moving. You don't want to be one of them kids, them parents that have their kids sitting around watching TV all day. You want to be out, doing a movie, doing a group. You want your child to have a healthy, moving life. You don't want to be that parent that's just sitting there, right? You're supposed to. And so now going from, like I said, 6 months to a year before conception to 2 years after giving birth, that's a lot of time. And so for me, like I said, if I ended up pregnant, I'm already behind the ball because I need to be in a level of health to where I'm ready to run that marathon that is parenting. And so all my friends and loved ones who have children, I'm looking at them. And the ones that were like, hey, I want to get pregnant for baby. Take a year. Be on whatever rhythm method, birth control, whatever you got to do for a year. And you need to be out there drinking a gallon of water. You need to be out there doing all this stuff because you will thank your lucky stars when you end up pregnant and you already are used to jogging down the street, because this is parenting. Parenting is this right here. This right here. And then like my good friend, we're talking about, she wanted to get pregnant and everything. And I'm like, okay, if you get pregnant, where do you want your child to start kindergarten? And she was like, what? I mean, have you looked at the school system? She's like, what do you mean? I mean, the school system where you are living right now, do you like the school system? I don't know. Look into it. Because most people, wherever they end up pregnant is where they're going to give birth and where they're going to raise their kids. So if it's not where you want to raise your children in that school system, look and see the best school system in the country for you if you're willing to move. And if not, the private school, save up for the private school you're going to put them in. Start looking at the schools that you're thinking, because that'll all be laid out already, because it's exhausting to be a parent. If that's all kind of laid out, 5 years will fly by. 5 years? What was I doing 5 years ago? I just got married 5 years ago. Child, 5 years ago feels like yesterday.
Gosh, was that 5 years?
5 years ago. You were just at my wedding. 5 years ago.
That was a mad drive to get there on time. Okay,
you got there. But imagine, let's say I gave birth on my wedding day, let's say. I have a whole kid that's about to start school basically in August.
Yeah.
Am I ready? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I'm not. So people don't think in milestones in life and situations and goals like that. They're just
No,
like,
it's very blinders.
it's
It's very
blind. I
blinders on it. It's
want
like
a
it's no, it's
sweepstakes.
compartmentalized. That's what it is.
Yeah,
It's compartmentalized. It's like,
yeah,
oh, I'm ready now. Yes, I want to be a parent. But that's why I love that story. And I'm so thank you for sharing that again, because you should be thinking longitudinally like that.
yes, yes.
And I was blessed that I had parents who really did think in that way. When they were ready to have me, my dad had already opened his law practice. He'd gone solo practitioner, and well, they were renting, but they had been making plans to go ahead and get a house. So I was
Mhm.
brought back to an apartment. But by the time Will came along, and I've actually figured out the events surrounding which we were both conceived, which is funny to think about it. But by the time they were ready to bring Will home, we had moved into the house, the house that I remember, because I don't remember the apartment. But they had done certain things. They had prepared themselves,
Yeah,
and never, not once in my life did I ever feel like my parents didn't want me.
yeah, yeah.
And because of that,
Or we're
I was
tired of you.
shocked when
Or
I got
tired of you.
older
Yeah.
and I hear
Yeah.
these stories that other people tell, and I just have to pray, because it's not that I'm trying to be judgy. It's just that it's shocking to me because of how I was raised
Yes, yes, yes.
to conceive that a parent would not want their child.
And the thing is that, like I said, even if the child wants them, it's them being tired of them. The,
Mm-hmm.
the responsibility of not being a weight on your parents, I think, is unfair if the parents were weighted before you arrived. And so if your parent already has so much going on in their life, and then you fall into it because they just want a squishy face and cute feet and that baby smell, now they're struggling in areas where that they were struggling before you got there. But you're thinking,
Mm-hmm.
man, I wasn't no help. You weren't any help, but that's not your fault. And I know people that
Mm-hmm.
feel that way. They were born in a situation that was already tumultuous, and they just added to that extra toothpick on something that was already wobbly, that jingle that was taken out. And it's like, that's not fair to the child. Now again, I'm so sensitive to those discussions only because you don't want to turn into a eugenics thing where it's like, oh, what if a person can't jog down the street, or a person can't do these things to make sure they're good. It's healthy and
Mm-hmm.
mentally, physically, and emotionally, even within your marriage, because the weight and the responsibility of a child can tear even a great marriage apart. And so if you're not going
Mm-hmm.
into this fully realizing that so much of the conversations and so much of the interaction that you're having is going to be focused on something that's not y'all, and how
Yeah.
challenging that can be if you're not ready for it. It's like, these are things that are not talked about. It's just, I want to make human beings, and I need your face to come out of my vagina so I can hold it and name it a cool name that I picked when I was in 6th grade. And that's as
It's the
far as
full
people are going.
the full work. You
Yeah.
need to be prepared for the full work,
Yes,
because you never stop being a parent.
yes, at all. My mother told me, and I think I said this to you, but she told me, she's like, it was the night after we got married. No, the day after we got married. It was soon after we got married, days after we got married. She's like, you know what? The day after y'all got married, I had the best sleep of my life. I was like, what? She's like, it was the best sleep I've ever had. I could finally rest and relax. I know that somebody's there and you're good and you're all right. And I can finally just sleep. And I felt so bad for her because I have awesome sleep, number one. Number two, my brother is mid-40s. And so I know that she's saying that my children are all paired off in ways that they have someone that can watch out for them and love on them and take care of them in ways that if you, as a parent, you get a call in the middle of the night, you don't know what it's about. You don't have to really be so concerned because they're with someone who at least has their eyes on them. That's how, in my opinion, good parents feel. I want you to be okay. Who's going to have eyes on you when I'm not around? But that 45 years of not having that deep comatose sleep, to where a baby anywhere in a store crying does not trigger you because you remember that your youngest is 37. Like that feeling of not having to, you know what I'm saying? Because that happens. You know what I'm saying? It's like, even being an aunt, when I was taking care of my nieces and nephews as much as I was before, a baby would cry and I could be pushing one of them. I'm still like, oh, is that you? You good? That triggered feeling. As a parent, I can't imagine what that's like. I don't feel that. I get to ebb and flow and live. So I feel as if people aren't thinking about how a sexual act will lead to you telling your youngest that you have not had good sleep in 45 years. People aren't thinking like that. But the cause and effect of the activity is so real. And I'm not saying it's like that for everybody, but I understood what she said, even from my perspective, my perspective of not being a person who has children, I understood what she meant. And I don't think that people think like that because their hunger, their passion, the biological clock, whatever it is ticking so loudly, is making them so hungry that they're thinking, if I can just conceive a child, that's all I need. I need to conceive
just get me across that finish line, and then I'll figure out the rest of it after that. Yeah,
I will figure it out. And it's like I have to figure it out. Then I have to cross the finish line. That's how my brain works. I need to be able to figure out the end before I start anything. Yeah. You know, I need to understand the ins, the outs, the side before I engage in anything. That's life altering. So not everybody's like that, like I said, but that's how my brain works. So if one of my coworkers is on there, because of course as soon as you get married, they're like, oh, you're gonna have kids, that's the natural conversation. But if they were on here right now, they would say, Ace, you always said if you ever got pregnant, that you would write your 2 weeks immediately. I was like, I need y'all to understand that I had in my laptop, in my computer, my resignation letter already the day I got married, in case I needed to send it to the acting boss that we had at the time, to send it to them to say, I just peeled on the stick this morning, I'm putting in my 2 weeks. Because I've got some work to do to figure out my entire 45 years. How are we going to do this? You know, that's how it is. How am I going to retire after children because I poured everything into them? That's your brain. If you're not thinking about your retirement as you are attempting to conceive, then what are we doing here? What are we doing?
And I think if nothing else that people take away from this whole conversation, that one problem-solving scenario right there is a high value add on that one, because I naturally trend that way. And actually it became problematic for me because I did do an exercise where I planned out my life past the age of 100 one time before I realized that I had kind of gone overboard. Like I had everything in every stage that I needed to go ahead and do. I mean, I was like, okay, for me to be able to do this, for me, and one of those constants was I had this, I don't know where it came from, but I had this goal that all of my children that I had needed to be out of my house and independent by the time I got ready to retire. And I always envisioned I was going to retire by 55. So when I was doing the reverse math backwards, I was like, ooh, that means I got to have these kids between here and here and here. So when I got divorced, that totally exploded my world and my plan.
That's the thing, though. Your plan had other people incorporated into it who can live their lives as they choose. And that's the difference. When we're talking, like, which makes sense. If you're incorporating even what the children decide to do. So let's say even if we're talking about if I had a 5-year-old right now, if that 5-year-old had any type of developmental situation, whatever it is, they might not be able to join kindergartners in a typical way.
Exactly.
For the children. So we can't even go too far past the birth and that experience. It's more so what you do to prepare for the best scenario possible before you even get there. So planning my life, I can't tell what I'm gonna do tomorrow. But I can tell you that if a child's life depended on what I do today, I'd have to figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow, if that makes sense. You see what I'm saying?
I know that if I was ready to go ahead and pee on the stick and look tomorrow and be like, oh, wow, literally means I'm going to be 60 years old before that child is really ready to go to college.
Girl.
I mean, it's just real. I mean, but my brain naturally does that calculation. I'm like, oh, crap. Lots of things got to change. You know how I knew I wasn't also ready to have kids? Hanging around my beautiful niece and nephew. The balls of energy, of Dragon Ball Z level energy that those two represent.
Yes.
How tired I was watching them.
That's it. You gotta get it in before you have them, because
I give credit to my brother and my sis, because I see now why they go out and do all the hiking and stuff. And I mean, they're actually thinking about making a food life change. So I'll just say it that way, because I didn't ask them to say that. But I see why they have that family time and that health built around there, because they realized they needed to do that to keep up with those two balls of energy.
But they're fantastic. That's the thing, that their parents that not to sound like that, but they're parents that like their kids in the house, because like, hey, I want my child to be safe. I'm not trying to run around with them. So just stay in the house, find something to do in the house, and the child becomes kind of complacent. They're not active, they're not social, they're not going out there, because it does take extra care to watch your children do anything on the playground, that they're being kind with other students, that they're not going to other kids, they're not going to fall and get hurt. You have to be so engaged as a parent that even at the time that you're sitting on the bench in the park, you still have to keep your eyes on them to make sure they're not getting snatched or hurt or anything like that.
And and it's dangerous too, because I think, and we probably ought to wrap it up, but this is really worth taking a moment. You have no idea how long we've been on here. I told you we could go. I knew we would go. We are way past 90 minutes. Let me put it that way. The parents who will take the kids to the park, and then they get on their phones.
Yes.
And then they dive down into, the social media world and whatnot. That's dangerous.
Never.
It's so dangerous because it's kind of like in the same family for me, if you're trying to mess with your phone too much while you're driving.
Yes.
Those devices seduce us into committing attention to them and the content that come through them. So you can be over there, and not only is it potentially dangerous for your child to be out there playing all that kind of stuff, especially if you're not paired up with another parent where y'all trading back and forth on who's going to be actively attending to the kids. It also sends a very, I think, dangerous message to the kids, because you're there, but you're not there.
But you're not there. You're as we've coined in the family, we call it a hologram. It's the hologram. They're present, they're there, but they're not really connected to what's happening with you. And
I still remember. I mean, they're vaguer now than they once were, but I remember my parents taking us to the park. I remember we were showing off of them, Mom and Daddy, look at what I can do, swinging on the bars and all that kind of stuff, with the monkey bars and everything. Yeah. And them having active attention toward us. Yeah. Them making the very difficult move of sitting back to let us explore being independent and to not be afraid of things. At first they push you on the swing, then they teach you how to swing yourself. Then they stand back and let you, because you got to build those muscles and you got to know the timing. You got to be situation aware so you don't knock the crap out of a kid who walks too close to you without hollering. All these things are really important. They're important ways we learn through play. And I just increasingly I get worried about these parents who think just me being there as a parental hologram is being present when it's really not. It's not really not.
And I know that I do not. And I know parents personally who say, I don't play with my children. I had more than one child so I can play with each other. That's not what I do. I'm not a playing with the kid parent. And they're bold about it. That's just who they are. Right or wrong, that's who they are. I know that I would like to be, if I had to be a parent, and I say had to intentionally, if I had to be a parent, I would be the type of parent that was playing with the child, because I remember the times that my parents were what I would consider playing with me. They weren't like on the floor rolling around, but I would like to be that type of parent, because you remember those times when you're wrestling or playing checkers and that kind of stuff. And I would like to be that way, but I don't want to be. I want to sit and watch TV, eat popcorn, or take a walk and high five with my husband.
But since that's okay.
Exactly.
Which that's is okay. And for the people who feel that pressure to have kids because it's what you do, when really they know inside that's not their main motivation. Exactly. Like they want their parents off their back talking about we need some grandkids. They don't want to feel the pressure of somehow not having the things that their peers have in appearance. Everyone should do the self-work of determining whether or not they want to have children. Yes. And if you decide you would like to be child-free, more power to you, because you know what? You do that child a favor by admitting that you really prefer the life of being child-free.
And I say to people often, do you want to have a 10-year-old? They're like, what? It's like, if you could give birth painlessly to a 10-year-old, would you still do it? It's the allure, especially for women, it's the allure of the itty bitty, even looking at it.
Chemicals.
It's the chemical. I get it. The smell of a baby, holding a baby. That is what pulls you more so than seeing a 13-year-old sitting there in the car being stupid in the mall, and you're like, I want to have that. That's not really what you want. It's the baby. You know what I'm saying? But all the kids in the mall acting stupid is what you're gonna make. You're gonna make a stupid kid in the mall. If you can't look at that with the same amount of excitement that you do pushing out your husband's face, then don't do that teenager a favor by creating them, because that's what they're going to be. That's what the majority of teenagers and young adults and young people, that's what they are. And I've said this, again, this is very controversial, but whatever comes out of you, if you're not ready for it to be the possibility of anything, then you probably should not procreate at all.
And that's okay.
It's okay. If your child, like I saw this meme that said, I don't care if my child ends up gay. I don't care at all. But if my child ends up a Republican, get out of my house. I thought that was hilarious.
Oh my God. Time out.
I laughed about it. I laughed about it though, because it made me think, not even about the topics, but it made me think, because there are people. And I said this to a young friend of mine hey, Brianna, I can say her name. But we were talking, and she was like, I think it's crazy, because she sent me a video of some sort, and she's like, I think it's crazy that parents would disown their kids or something like that. And I was like, it's very common. She's like, what you mean? And I was like, if you are a certain shade within your race and they don't approve of it, they'll dog you out and basically disown you. If you are
They used
gay,
to send people away.
I mean,
Sometimes.
yeah, if your child ends up being gay or coming out to you and they're gay, and you have an issue with that, they'll kick the child out the house. If the child is non-binary, whatever whatever. If your child is not what you would consider a typical child, the child has a learning disability, the child has anything that is not quote unquote considered typical, parents oftentimes will kick them out the house or do something ridiculous like that. And it's like, you should not have conceived, because there's a chance that your child will be in some way or manner that you may not have been prepared for. But
Not
that's why
what
you
you
think of it
expected.
being and not what you're expecting. And it's like you have to have every possibility. And if it's like, hey, now that possibility is a little bit too scary for me to think about having a child, be real. Because there are very common atypical things that a child could turn out to be. So it's like, why would you even subject this child to your disapproval of things they possibly cannot help or change?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you even go there? Because you wanted the squishy baby that you could hold. You wanted that experience, or you got talked into doing something that you weren't ready for. And so
Yeah.
I was telling her this, and she was like, AC, that's crazy to me that people would do that. I'm like, yeah, I know people that are like, your 18th birthday is a moving party where we are all helping you move out the house and be wherever you're going to be because you're getting out of the house at 18. What? I mean, again, I'm not, whatever, that's
And
your
you know
business.
where that came from, though. That was, I won't say it came from that, but that was very much reinforced in shows like The Cosby Show.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it was in the culture already. It's like 18 out my house, either military or school or job or something. But I mean, that's real.
And parents, even parents are doing that. Did you prepare your child for that? Did you talk to them at 16? Like, baby, we got 24
Oh, mine
months.
definitely did.
But you got 24 months. I mean, there's a lot of parents that are completely unable to do a lot of things. But they're like, I gave you food and water for 17 and a half years. You better get it together. And you're like, but did you teach them life? Did you help them balance the checkbook? Did you help them open a checking account? Did you talk to them about what college they want to go to? Did you help them with the ACTs and the SATs? Did you prepare them for life? Or did you say, at 18, you out of here? That's not raising a child. That's threatening a child with homelessness at the age of 18. So it's a lot of things that go into this.
Say that again.
It's threatening your child with homelessness by the age of 18. And it's not helping them. Because there are parents that are highly intelligent. They've drilled all these knowledge and things into their kids. And their kids are still like, I'm going to become a professional tap dancer. Nothing wrong with professional tap dancers, because I know one. But my point is, they're not going in the direction that you thought that they would go in. Okay, still, whatever. That it can happen anyway. But if you're not even giving them the education that they need to be successful, but you just know that 18 is the magic number to get out your house, that's not fair. But there are people like, all I can do is 18 years. I had to deal with you for all this time. Nobody asked you to have a child.
No.
This is an option. It's an option to
You
do all
made
this.
that choice.
You intentionally went through the process of allowing someone inside or outside of your body to create repeatedly to create life. If it, you know what I'm saying? So it's just, I'm always very, I wouldn't say triggered because it's not that strong, but I'm always very reactive when I hear about people complaining about parenting. And it's natural. Sometimes your husband does something, you want to push him down. Your kids get on your nerves. It happens sometimes. But there are people that are like, they're sitting there and they're like, what? I'll give you an example. I've got a lovely young friend, actually a lot of them, but there's one in particular that her entire existence wrapped around her child. Nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about nothing is wrong with that. If your relevance on earth is your child, that's fine. Somebody else is like, hey, I'm a doctor, I save lives, that's my relevance on earth. Somebody else is like, I love my husband, and the love I have for him makes me feel like I can wake up in the morning. He's the center of my life. Whatever a person's center is perfectly fine. But no matter what a person's center is, I still like edges. Let's have a full conversation of every aspect of your life. Like, if you're going to post something on Facebook, whatever. I love that you love your kids, but what did you eat today? Or how do you feel about coronavirus? Or what's a funny joke you heard? I like that to be a multifaceted ability in most people that I'm friends with. But this particular person is completely obsessed, solely, completely, completely, wholeheartedly, and obsessively focused on only her children. But it's also complaining about her children. So a particular way that I had to, she called me again.
It's okay. We're gonna wrap up.
I know we have to wrap up, but I have to make this point. There's a particular picture that she had posted the other day where I'm like, I can't do this, I have to unfollow her. But she was sitting there, her hair standing on end, and her kids are clawing at her, and she's like, "Mommy life," and it's like, "Oh dear Jesus, help me!" It's like you had them, and this is every day she's saying something, complaining about her children, whether it's tongue in cheek, whether it's for real, I can't stand these people, whatever it is, it's constantly a complaint. And I'm sitting there like, you literally decided to create these human beings who should be celebrated every single day. How do you intentionally, if it was somebody complaining about their job, I'm like, then get another motherfucking job, get a different job, change your job, or complain about the city they live in, move. But when it comes to parenting, we do a martyrdom with parenting, where we're expected to praise them for these choices and lift them up and praise them. And in turn, hopefully it helps them as they parent. But it's people that are wanting this attention for having children and making these decisions. If I'm sitting there like, gosh, got another tight bra today, can barely breathe, you'll be like, why is she complaining about this bra that she bought? Get a bra that fits you. Oh my gosh, another day with this tight bra. It looks great, but whoo, you'll be like, she's crazy. So why in the universe is every day another reason for you to complain about a choice that you made multiple times? I don't get that. And I want, especially women, because I'm a woman, I want women to think about the fullness of life and think about what does fullness of life look like to you. And if you're saying that you're living your life to the fullest, but your fullness of life is causing you to complain literally daily, then is that fullness?
I mean, not just complain, but document it and then broadcast it, and to preserve it in such a way that one day your children could go back and look at that and see how you were talking about them. Yes. But I think, and if I can hold on to this point long enough to make it, this will help to wrap it up in there. Yes. I was reading something of a good friend of mine. She's on the right addiction too. I think this was Kanisha, or someone recently, but they were talking about how it's important to reframe. When you find yourself constantly complaining about something or whatever, you got to look and say, wait, am I framing this the way that I need to so that I can live my best life? No, it wasn't cliche. It was someone else who I read, but it really helped me because I've been in that mode too, because I try to help people. Some people think of it as saying silver lining, but no, it's so much more. Silver lining to me is like ignoring the severity of a situation and doing the Scarlett O'Hara, I won't think about it now. But to reframe it, it was Glamazini. That's who it was. Glamazini did a short video about this. She recently lost her father. He was in the Virgin Islands where she's from. She couldn't go to the service because of all the stuff that's going on. And she said, people were talking smack about 2018, talking about it was trash, and they were ready for 2019 to come, and then 2019 got there, and then they turned around and said, oh, this is trash. And so then 2020, and then 2020 was kicking our behind with coronavirus and everything. She said, wait a minute, wait, people of God. Yeah, we need to think about this. If we're in this destination mentality, and I'm gonna drop her link in here too, because I think that's important to share with people. We're always going to stay disappointed in what's going on. And that woman sounds like she's she's potentially placed herself in a space where she needs the validation of the public coming in and thumbing up and hearting and caring and all that stuff. I know how you feel about that care icon. But all that kind of stuff, like she needs that to help fuel her through the activity of something that she obviously wanted to do. She obviously wanted to have those children because she had a lot of other choices that could have led to that not being the outcome. But what does it mean when that's the way you need to fuel yourself to do this very important work? And is there something about the design of your life that you need to reframe and reposition so that you don't have to do that? Because this whole Corona Chronicles kind of situation, when we look back on this in history, there's a lot of content that's being put out there that could be misinterpreted or badly received by children once they're able to go back and read what their parents said. I mean, you talk about some needs for counseling. You know, especially with the whole sudden forced homeschooling feeling of things and whatnot. It is a great tool to have something like Facebook and the other social media things. It is also a great and growing responsibility to think beyond the moment.
Yes, yes. That's literally the theme of this entire conversation.
Yes.
Whether that moment creates a cringe, whether that moment creates a tear, whether that
Mm-hmm.
moment creates a light bulb over your head. Think past the moment and the fullness of the situation. And it's like, I find it so important not to just stand in a space, because even like you were saying, people complain each year. They're like, yo, there's always a meme or something that's going on, and it'll be like somebody getting beat up over the year, over the head with the actual year that's going
Or
on.
shacking the thing like this of stuff, or the stair step. That's the
Yeah,
other
the stairs,
cliche, you know, the stair step
but
when you put in the.
there's some things to talk about. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. I did not know that um, a random post would lead to this fantastic conversation. And if there
Oh
are
yeah.
medical users out there, think about this. Think about the possibility of doing this, making a vasectomy that is specifically and most definitely reversible, with a 97% success rate, since most birth control, I think, oral birth controls are like at that degree. I think 97% or something.
Or some form of male contraception that
Of
can
some
be
sort.
done
They
safely
said they
and in
tried
an
it.
informed way. Hmm?
They said they tried, but men were having side effects they didn't enjoy. But it was like cramping and headaches. Where it's like,
And we have
really,
it all the time.
all the time. But I mean, hey, men rule the world, so they can do what they want apparently. But if we could
Mm.
find some type of birth control that puts it at least partially in their hands, I think that would be great for a lot of people out there that are complaining about the outcome of things that are preventable.
Yeah, because I mean, children who come here should be here because their parents wanted them to be here.
Yes, and are prepared for
And are
them to.
prepared for them to be here, or at
Yes,
least had a capability of getting prepared for that thing.
yes,
I will forever be thankful to my parents for being good and married before they had me, and I'm their firstborn. And
yes,
fortunately, because I saw that modeled, that seemed the normal thing to me. It
yes,
was strange to me to see people who were like fresh married and then boom, boom,
yes,
boom, you know,
yes,
with the thing. And that's not a judgment. It's just what was my normal growing up.
yes,
I expected that when I got married, I would have a number of years to enjoy being somebody's wife and having someone be my husband before
yes.
we would then make a decision
And
to
you know
have
what?
children.
That's it.
So basically, we're saying, regardless of what you're talking about, but especially when we're talking about our sex, our health,
Yes,
thinking about how we're framing our lives, that's what it
yes,
really is. If
yes,
if you are doing something and it's not getting you where you want to be, then
yeah,
it's time to step back and
yeah,
reframe. And maybe that's one of the gifts of this time of self-isolation and quarantine and all that kind of stuff. Taking the step back and saying, how can I do this better? How
yes,
can I tap resources, people, books, internet, whatever it is, so I can get a better grip on how do I pursue whole health, which
yes,
includes my mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health. It includes a deep dive and examination of how do I view my sexual
yes,
health, my reproductive health. What don't I know? What
yes,
am I aware that I don't know?
yes,
And where can I seek
mm,
resources that I can trust the
yes,
information coming to me? So, like I said,
yes,
I'm going to drop some that are my favorites to go down in there for people who are a little timid and aren't ready quite to have that open throated conversation
yeah,
with another human being, because there's a lot you can go ahead and read, but you got to be discerning in what you go through. But also know that there are people who are willing to help you have the conversations, people who you can trust. You need to determine and discern who you can trust to be open and honest about that. If you have questions about the different types of sex, oral, anal, vaginal, all that other kind of stuff, don't just make assumptions about things. Like, seek information so you can make sure, above all, you remain healthy.
yes, yes. That's it. Beyond the moment.
Beyond the moment. Reframe. Beyond the
That's it.
moment.
That's it. That's it.
God, this is fun. You know what? We talked so long. We're gonna have to split this into 2 episodes. I guarantee you. Like, not even like segments. 2 whole episodes. We've been going for about 4 hours.
This probably needs to be 10 because we talk about everything under the
What
sun.
the way I do the episodes, what I think will end up happening is I'll probably split it into the discussion about the sex and reproductive health, and then have
Mhm.
another segment on the parenting piece, because I think we kind of went in
Yeah.
on the parenting. That's probably the natural division. And but I split them into like,
so forgive me if I'm moving around crazy.
Oh, you're fine. I split it into 15-minute segments, no more than that, because of the way YouTube is set up anyway, and because people need little breaks to go to the bathroom and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I'm gonna have to do this in 2 episodes. You're probably gonna be episode 5 and 6.
7 and 8. I'm good with it. I'm open to it. It's gonna be a lot of people, it's gonna be a lot of people that's got a lot of things to say, but I stand by everything I said. I feel how I feel. So
absolutely.
It's
and I usually do some outtakes too, so we'll see.
Oh, that's fine.
I love you.
I love you dearly, Marta. Blaine said,
all
hey,
right.
he couldn't say nothing before he came out. I was like, I'm recording. He was like,
yeah, tell my brother I said, what up?
I will. I definitely will.
All right. I'm gonna go fix some dinner or something, I guess.
Yeah, I gotta be wifely. Yeah, I gotta make that.
Wifely duties.
No, I know.
Wifely duties.
Now that's the 1950 traditional. Like, gotta go be a wife.
Girl, this ain't no 1950s. We've been feeding the world from the beginning.
No, that's the truth. You ain't lying. That is the truth.
All right, I'll catch you later. I'm probably gonna Marco Polo you later.
Okay, please. So for real, please.
All right.
Bye, girl.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us this season for Showing Our Sass, the podcast. We really appreciate you all listening and watching and tuning in, and we hope that you've enjoyed and learned something from all of what we had going on this season. Please remember to leave us a comment, like, share, subscribe, all those good things, and I hope you're looking forward to season 2, where we're going to come back with a brand new guest. Looking forward to seeing you then. Take care, y'all.